Hey, what's up, what's up? Hopefully everyone is doing okay. So we are on week 20. So if you read the Bible, takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours or so, and it's about 15 or 14 pages in my Bible. But you split the Bible pretty much just evenly in 50 different parts, and you get through the Bible in 1 year if you read each part a week. So we are on week 20 or the 20th part. And this was the readings was Second Chronicles 8 through 31. I enjoy this reading. It's a lot easier than First Chronicles or it might be Kings. I think it's actually Kings, where you have a history what happens, but it's a lot harder to follow because it's a lot about what happened in Israel or Samaria, instead of just in Judah or Judah, or they refer to it as Jerusalem. Um, and it's just because if you just have like in Second Chronicles, you're just talking about, at least the reading today, you're just talking about the lineage of David, and so it's a lot easier to kind of follow and kind of see what's happening, and it's just a lot easier, and so it just makes a lot more sense, and so it's just a lot easier to follow. All right, and so for each day, it has a certain theme, and so for Monday, I have the Queen of Sheba, and she came to visit Solomon, and she asked Solomon with great questions, and Solomon was able to give her the answers, and so it's showing Solomon's wisdom. It was interesting for me to think about Queen Sheba, like who was she? She was probably a pretty powerful person in the time, and excuse me, and she's a woman, and so you have times in history where women are strong leaders, but you don't know if she was like in charge. Or, there might have been a king who was in charge, but um, so it's like, can you have leaders today? Or is she the Queen of Sheba, or was she like in charge? It's like, so who's really in charge, anyways? Like, you have a queen and a king. Who's actually in charge? The people that's in charge? Is it like one of the priests that's in charge? Is it the governor? Of a certain area is in charge, and so you have these different figureheads, but who's really in charge, anyways? So ideally, the buck does seem to stop at the king, though. He's responsible, and should have like the ultimate say when things happen. But the king's allowed to like make in charge who he wants to be in charge. But it does seem like, although there's, like I said, there's multiple people in charge of the buck. The responsibility seems to lie in the king. At least that's what the Bible seems it does teach. And then there was a woman. Um, I think it was before. I think it was before Uzziah, or maybe Jeshoshaphat. I forget who it was, but you had the queen who was in charge. She and they ended up killing her and put the kid who was like 7 years in charge. So you do have a woman that was in charge, but it was like not a good time, and so it's like the only time that you have like a woman who's like the head of the state, and it was not a good thing. So I think that, looking back, at least the Bible teaches that it's not a good thing for a woman to be like a head of the state. I think that women can have authority in certain situations, but as far as like having the ultimate authority, I think the Bible shows and teaches that it's not the best idea. It doesn't seem to work. But I mean, all men we're all sinners, and so we all mess up. So just having man in charge isn't perfect either. The only perfect king is Christ. So I mean, like, yeah, women shouldn't be the head, but I mean, a lot of times, man isn't perfect by um, any such imagination. So that's the Queen of Sheba, and I always think too, for the Queen of Sheba, like, it'd be cool to see like the things that she asked Solomon, and did they speak the same language? I mean, was it? I don't think they spoke the same language, but they seemed to be able to interpret each other, and to get, because she tested him, and Solomon was able to answer her question. So it shows that it's likely that you can have communication through different cultures and have it to be where it works. All right, so Monday I have King Abijah. He only reigned 3 years. He was He was after Rehoboam. Because you have David, then you have Solomon, and then you have Rehoboam, and then after Rehoboam it was Abijah, and he only reigned for like 3 years. Um, he won a major battle, but he didn't seem to be turning his heart to God, his heart fully to God, and so you have like this really the kind of this common theme, um, where you have like the king does really well, but then he like messes up his heart. Like the better he does, and he just like starts to mess up a lot. And so he reigned 3 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name. There was a war behind Abijah and Jeroboam. He won the battle. Um, and he talked about to Jeroboam how that they didn't, because in Samaria they cast out all the Levites. So he had like this rile speech to the troops of Rehoboam on the other side, and he had a lot of good points, and so he won the battle. Um, it doesn't really say in Second Chronicles. It doesn't really go over if he's good or bad or not. I just looked on Google to see. If what it says about him. So I was of his fathers, and they buried him, King David, in Asa. When Asa ruled, though, he seemed to be doing pretty well. Um, because I'm still going over all these. I'm trying to see. Trying to see the exact verses. Verses. He said it was a wicked king. I want to see exactly where it says that in the Bible. What verse? Uh, so 1 Kings 15:13. Yeah, because I'm still trying to get to know all the different kings. 1 Kings 15:13. It seems to have like this. Now, 10th year King Jeroboam the son of Nebat reigned Abijah over Judah. 3 years reigned in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Micaiah, the daughter of Absalom. And he walked in all the sins of his father, which he had done before him, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God as the heart of David his father. Nevertheless, for David's sake, to the Lord God keep and have produced instead of his son. Abijah. So, yeah, it just seems to be this common thing with the kings, right? So I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I have King Abijah, King Asa, King Jeshoshaphat, and King Uzziah. And it seemed to be just a kind of common theme. Like, some of them did better than others, but they did like really well and they did really bad. Like, they did really good in some parts and they did really bad in some parts. But it seems like that's all the kings. They're, um, I like Hezekiah. Hezekiah didn't really seem to mess up too much. But like Solomon and David was like perfect, but he still messed up a lot. He still messed up with he messed up big with Uriah. So you have like these different kings, and it's good to know like the lineage about them, what each king did. But it just seems to follow the same pattern, right? Where you just like the king does really well and then he sins. Um, it's just a pattern of man. It's just a bummer that man's like that, and it's just hard to know when you're messing up. And the paths you go down, sometimes you just don't care. Temptation is really hard, and you just have like these different justifications to get through, and it's like I just don't really care anymore. And it's like you work so hard and you try so hard, but it's like life is so difficult, and it's like you get tired of working hard, and it's like the pain that comes with self-control and not doing certain things and not giving temptation is so painful, and working hard is so painful, and eventually it's just like I just don't care anymore. I just don't want to do anymore. Like, I want to rest. Everybody's sinful, and it's just like everybody sins in their eyes, and like the more power you have, the more consequences your sin has. And so just God puts certain people in charge, and it's really difficult. It's not easy. It just we look in the past and we look at the kings that make mistakes in the past, and we can like see the patterns. We start seeing it in our own lives, and we can adjust accordingly and make God happy. Because sometimes, I just feel like we're all in this together as men, and we're judged as men as well as each individual. And so we just want to make God happy that he made man, and like, because you have a lot of power. Like, each man has a lot of power over each man, because man understands man, right? And so like we want to do well, and we have this responsibility to build each other up, and so that we all do well before God. And so God's not sad that he made man in general. He does more good than bad. And that we have like this responsibility to help each other and to learn from each other's mistakes and grow as like as man together and as individuals. And some of the responsibility is just like warning other people or just like giving them guidance, but we still have some responsibility, even if it's just to warn or to give guidance or to communicate how we feel and how we think about things. So yeah, that's what I got. I know like these. I mean, you have Kings and you have Chronicles and you have First and Second Kings. So there's a lot about the Kings, and it doesn't talk. It's interesting because like it doesn't talk about like the Kings, the people at the time like committing fornication. But when you go over other parts of the Bible, it talks about these sins. So like in Kings and Chronicles, it talks about like the sins of the land in general, like the leading part, but it doesn't mean that the sins of each individual, like committing fornication, or not fornication, adultery. I think fornication is a sin, but like what fornication actually is, because it talks about like fornication with devils and like fornication itself. I don't think is just only of a sexual nature. I think it's hard to know exactly what it is, but you have like these in Chronicles and you have in Kings. Like I said, you have like these acts of kings that are bad, but it doesn't really necessarily talk about individual acts that are bad. But that's just because the other Bible covers that, and so there's no reason to kind of duplicate unnecessary or have unnecessary duplication. You want duplication because you obviously have that, but you don't want unnecessarily duplication. So like That's why it's really important to read the Bible cover to cover and get all the context, and so you get all the important parts of it, and so you don't miss anything out. And if you just skip around, I feel like you miss out a lot. So that's pretty much all I have for this week. I hope everyone's doing okay. God bless and happy truth seeking.